process has occurred, and you can choose to respect it, whether or not you like it. But we have, in fact, survived our first round of the 12-team college football playoff. I'm Kelly Hunter, and to my right, your left, is Chris Stewart, voice of Crimson Tide Athletics. And so on Sunday, we were watching on national television, a lot of us, and they told us that SMU and Alabama were not going to be having watch parties. They made us aware that Alabama was going to be having their banquet Sunday night. You, just funnily enough, happened to be kind of leading the banquet.
I was the MC.
On Sunday night. So, okay, so describe the vibe and the mood.
It was definitely not a party. Certainly at the start. I think as more, and this is a deal really for parents, the players. There are some fans there as well, a few. But it's mostly family.
Yeah.
And it's a chance to recognize the seniors, but also other award winners for the team itself. And it's an end of the regular season celebration is what it's for. And look, every year, whether we think so or not, based on, I say we as fans, there's a season to celebrate at some level and careers to celebrate.
Right.
So it's meaningful. But, this was not a party that everybody was fired up about, given the fact that we'd found out at 11:30 or 11:40, whatever time it was, that Alabama was not in the playoff.
For the first time in...
First time since 20...
For the first time in forever, it feels like.
Whatever it was.
And that's why this is so...
Well, not the first time that they had been in the playoff, really, in that long, because we weren't in the playoff 2 years ago. Yeah. 2 years ago.
Okay, but I guess
2 years ago.
Let's
but I know
say entering this point of the season, not part of the national conversation anymore. Other than, can you believe that there were only 3 SEC teams in the playoff?
It was...
Was it addressed at all? Like, how did Coach DeBoer...
Yeah, and I don't remember exactly the wording on it, but it was clear about what the expectation is, and I thought it was very good and well stated by Greg Byrne, who spoke as the athletic director would at the beginning of an event like that. He kind of started it off, and Greg was terrific. He was not happy for those guys. He was disappointed for them, but not disappointed in them. You could have easily made the argument that Alabama should be in, and I know we'll get to that in a minute. But the point is, he wasn't there making a lot of excuses. What he quickly reminded everybody of that had been around and stated for those that hadn't been around was the fact that the 2 previous times that Alabama felt like they should have been in the last 6 years, 7 years, whatever it was, when they felt like they dropped the ball, they came back the next year and won the national championship. Was it 19 when they thought they didn't get in previous time? Yeah, they didn't get in 19.
I was trying to remember pre-COVID.
I remember 19. Okay. Parts of it anyway. So they don't get in the playoff that year. They win the national championship in 2020. That was the weird COVID season. They also had another year where they failed to get in, and the next year win the whole thing. So the bounce back year is something that's happened in Tuscaloosa, and they feel like they're going to have themselves in position to do that. They're not going to be, and gutted's not right. Gutted gives the impression that they had no players back, which is not true. They just didn't have as many players back from last year to this year. But the timing of the coaching change, and I say the timing just because of where everything fell. Coach Saban's not going to announce his retirement. We didn't know he was going to retire. So it's not like he he could have or would have allowed himself to think about it before the season was over with. But the truth is, when you get to the end of the season and you announce that you're done, now the portal was only open, I think, for 2 schools pretty much, Alabama and Washington.
Yeah, when your coach leaves.
And others could pick from Alabama, the ones that did go in the
Tuscaloosa
portal.
was burning.
We lost some key guys to the portal, in addition to some key guys to graduation at some key spots. At the same time, Bama picked up some good players from Washington that had played for Coach DeBoer, obviously. But it was still a major turnover, major change. You won't have that this year. This staff is in place. It's solid. Does he make changes? Who knows? I have no clue. Wouldn't be shocked also if there's not one change on the staff. So, but there's going to be more stability than there was, both from a staff standpoint and a roster standpoint. And now you get to go out, check out what's in the portal, pick up. You got more options of who and what to pick up for your squad. And you're in a much better place. Your starting point going into spring practice is so much further ahead than it was. That doesn't excuse a loss to Vanderbilt. It doesn't excuse the way you lost and having 15 penalties against Tennessee that ultimately cost you
or just going and
that game.
Shitting the bed at
Well, then
Norman.
there's that.
You know,
Sometimes
there's
I
that.
forget we're on the internet, not
Yeah,
on,
no,
not on
it's
the
okay.
FCC
I
anymore.
don't know if it's okay to say those things either, but we'll find out.
You can say the bed, I think, on a podcast. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, and I think to say that people were walking around dazed was not a correct statement on Sunday in Alabama, in Tuscaloosa. I think it was a hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Look,
what were your thoughts when the rankings came out?
Disappointed, really disappointed and frustrated because I really felt the night before it was the perfect storm.
Oh, absolutely. It was
for
brewing.
a multitude of reasons that I think it happened. Alabama with 3 losses was easy to keep out. A lot of damage was self-inflicted. Absolutely. Start
easy
with
to
that
hire,
point.
Easy to fire.
Exactly. Easy to, let's start with there. Alabama missed its own opportunities. The other piece of that was the last game, the one that everybody was watching, goes right to the wire. If Clemson plays the second half the way they did the first and win that ball game by minimum 2 scores, they don't have to beat them by 3 touchdowns. If they win that thing by 10, maybe even 7.
Well, the first 90 seconds of that game, I thought, they're going to lay
miserable.
an egg.
Yeah.
It's done. SMU's out.
And so that's how I thought that would happen. Clemson's in, SMU's out. You get Alabama in as the last thing. We're still fine. The other thing, SMU, if you're going to come back, finish the thing off.
Right, at least
Just finish it off, win it in overtime, but they didn't. So it's that dramatic finish, and it's hard to punish SMU. And if you're going to do this to Alabama, and again, I'll start. Alabama did it to themselves. Right. We did it to ourselves. Right. But if you're the committee and you're trying to appease those that have been saying that Alabama's getting favoritism, this is the time to do it. And here's another piece of that hadn't been much talk about. One of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons you take Alabama in the past, if all things are equal, is because it's not just the brand name Alabama, it's the brand of Nick Saban.
Well, that's the thing.
And
do you think if this all things equal, would Nick Saban's team have gotten in this year?
Possibly. But here's why it was easier. Because, and TV's involved with this, don't kid yourself. They talk about the committee, and I believe that is primarily true, but I also believe there's heavy influence from the TV side of it and the TV partners that are writing the checks for all of it.
Do you think the TV side saw all those empty seats in Charlotte? And
yeah.
the Upper Bowl?
But they also saw the eyes that were on it. But what I was saying with Saban is that all right, you're not getting Alabama, but y'all have already got Saban.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have Saban involved in the broadcast, eyeballs on him anyway because of his role with ESPN. So it's not just, you're weighing it just Alabama, not Alabama and Saban. That's not a knock on Coach DeBoer. That's not saying Alabama's lost its luster, relevance, importance. It's just in this situation, if you're going, it was easier to keep Alabama out now than it will be, I think, going forward, and certainly easier than it would have been in the past.
I just thought, because looking at it, all things equal, if this were a Nick Saban team, they would have been in. But that was just me sitting there thinking on Sunday morning, kind of reflecting on different angles of this.
I'll go ahead and answer what somebody watching right now is saying. Well, if it had been Nick Saban, they wouldn't have been in this position. Maybe, maybe not. Nick Saban knew what was coming, and that's why one of the reasons Nick Saban got out. Not blaming him, not saying he was wrong to do so. I'm just saying, you're right. Nick Saban would have been in this spot because Nick Saban got out when he did, so he didn't have to deal with the things that others now are having to deal with.
And because of the odd, and I'm going to go the odd parameters with which this first year of the college football playoff has been crafted, you're left with just 3 SEC teams, which I don't think will ever happen again.
I can see it happening again, but it's going to be because things go in cycles, and I can see it happening again. I just don't think it's going to be as likely. And that's another reason why, Kelly, they went ahead and did it, because if Alabama was another 2-loss team, or Alabama's third loss, let's say Alabama had gotten in over Georgia, and because Alabama would have beaten,
they beat Georgia.
Let's say Alabama beat Oklahoma, okay? And Alabama was the team that got into the SEC championship game. And let's say Texas beat Alabama, okay? Now Bama's got 3 losses. Doesn't matter. Bama's getting in.
Oh, yeah.
Bama's getting in over SMU if they're playing in the championship game. But because they didn't get the 3rd loss in the championship game, you can justify keeping them out.
Put them over in the pool.
Right. So that's where your 4th team would have come from.
Well, so earlier today, Nielsen released its numbers. The SEC accounted for 8 of the 10 most watched schools this year. Georgia was number 1, and they had 8.6 million average viewers per game. And Georgia also played in 2 of the 3 highest rated games of the season. One, of course, being against Alabama.
Was Texas the other?
Texas was the other. Okay. Texas, Georgia was the highest rated regular season game. At 13.2 million viewers.
Makes sense.
So at number 1, we had Georgia. Number 2 is Ohio State of most watched college football teams. Alabama was 3rd with an average of 6.6 million viewers. And then you have Texas and Tennessee, of all things, in the top 5 of the most watched teams.
I can believe all that.
And then just quickly through the last 5, there was Michigan at number 6, Texas A&M, LSU, Kentucky, and Florida. And those are your top 10 most watched college football teams.
Not shocked.
No, I'm not, but it's just
Kentucky
interesting.
surprises me, but I bet if you looked at that schedule and where those ratings came from, they were probably playing...
It's because...
the other SEC teams.
Well, the SEC had more
ratings.
teams being shown during prime time this year.
Right.
And Kentucky got that roll bounce, if you will, from being able to play in those games. Topping out in some of the other conferences, Colorado, no surprise, was the top-ranked team.
Star factor with some players, but obviously Prime has a ton to do with that, but Travis Hunter being another one.
Miami, Army, Colorado State, Marshall, and UTEP, and then Notre Dame, which I don't really count Notre Dame because they're...
Wait a minute, UTEP what?
Yeah, UTEP was the most watched team in the Conference USA. Okay. But quickly, to sum up Sunday night, I'm guessing a nice night to recognize seniors.
Yeah, it was. It was a lot better as and again, the reception was...
Was Coach Saban there?
Coach Saban was not there.
Okay.
No,
didn't think he would be.
Coach DeBoer was there. The staff was there. I thought, as they have done with just about everything, I thought they handled the situation well. not easy. You would love for it to be a party, but it wasn't the same mood early. But there was a lot. Again, you're there to celebrate people.
Yeah.
It's easy to celebrate a season and success for a team when it goes the way you want it to.
And you've had a successful season.
And when you find out the news that you're in a few hours earlier. But this was one where you didn't get the news you wanted, but it's about the people. And it's the last time, for a lot of them, you're going to have them in that room.
That they're all going to be gathered together.
So that was meaningful. And again, a ton of parents there. They deserve that moment.
Absolutely.
They deserve that moment to see their kids. The kids almost owe it to them. I know they're adults, but they're still their children. And the parents deserve the chance to be able to honor and recognize and enjoy them and enjoy what is a celebration. In the case of some, 4 and 5 years. In the case of others, 1 season. Mm-hmm. But it's still a celebration. And no, it was not as festive as it might have been otherwise, but it was a really, really nice evening.
Steak dinner? Chicken?
Honestly,
lasagna? Come on.
No, they had... There wasn't...
I'm guessing there was a good amount of food.
There were hors d'oeuvres. It was not a sit-down dinner.
Okay.
There were hors d'oeuvres, and there was an open bar for those that could partake. I did not, but it was...
Would have made the night a lot more interesting if you'd been up there.
I get way
going
too...
full Dean Martin.
I get way too entertaining if we go there. And I do not need anything
enough
from the audience.
Okay.
Studio audience.
So now we're looking ahead, and the ironic thing, which I found funny, was the college football playoff chairman, Ward Manuel. We're facing his team now in
That's
Tampa.
Right. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, we've got Michigan, Alabama coming up. If you had to give any indication, how many of the upperclassmen will travel to play in this game?
I've not heard of anybody opting out that has eligibility left and will play next year or is planning to go to the league.
Yeah.
Be
I was
a part
curious
of the draft.
because
I haven't heard. That doesn't mean it hadn't happened or won't. Now, obviously, some guys have announced they're going to transfer, so they're gone. That's fine. You expect that. That's what the game is now. But as far as Jalen Milroe type guys who, and I'm not saying Jalen won't be back next year. I have no clue. But guys that may have an opportunity to sit out because they want to avoid injury or be in a position where they're not having to deal with the threat of the injury.
Right.
They go prepare for the workout themselves. Yeah. Then, I haven't heard of anybody that's doing that.
I'm going to be interested to see with Jalen if this is an unfinished business type thought process he goes through, because he was left off the list for guys going to New York for the Heisman Trophy presentation, which I would think with the inconsistency of the offense this year, that's not surprising, but is next year, his kind of like he's coming back and he's bringing hell with him.
But then he gets the Campbell Award last night.
I know.
For a top scholar athlete in the sport, phenomenal accomplishment. The academic Heisman, it's the award that, was, there have been others, but I know Barrett Jones won it from Alabama. It's an incredibly high honor because you've got to be a great player, but you also have to be an off-the-chart student athlete as well. So, again, Jalen checks all those boxes, and I'm a Jalen Milroe fan. I want what's best for Jalen, whatever that looks like. At the same time, just from a football perspective, if Jalen's back, do the 3 guys that were backups to him this past season,
do they stick around?
Stay? Does 1 leave? Do 2 or all 3? You've also signed one of the best quarterback prospects in the nation coming out of high school. You fully expect him to be on campus regardless, but what does that all play out and look like? I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
It will be a very interesting situation.
Yeah, we're entering this waiting period now where Monday this season of the portal opened. Over 1,000 football players have already entered the portal, which sounds like a lot, but then when you think about how many universities there are that play football, 1,000, I guess, doesn't sound as big.
10 for 10 for every 136 teams.
Weighing their options, making, as we heard last year, business decisions, because this is, for a lot of guys, a business decision, and a lot of eyes are going to be on with Coach DeBoer, how he decides if he's going to stay with this staff, because in a lot of ways last year, by spring, he put together what he could. And now it's like, okay, is he going to be accepting resumes?
I believe, even though it was done quickly, I think the core of the staff is exactly what he wanted. Now, obviously, the OC that he had hired wound up after spring practice,
Coach Grubb,
staying in Washington
but going with
to
the
go with the
Seahawks.
Seahawks. So he got the best of both worlds. The man got to go to the NFL, which he wanted to do, and he didn't even have to move.
Yeah. Okay,
they were already in Seattle. So that was a life choice that made a lot of sense. Again, you're still in a position financially with what you can hire at Alabama. You're going to get the staff you want, unless somebody's just got circumstances like Coach Grubb where you can't do that. Doesn't matter what money you throw at them, they're gonna do what's best family-wise and career-wise. I don't know. I think there were plenty of the best moments were plenty good enough if you want to bring everybody back to go, you know what, we were pretty dadgum close. We had a couple of games where we failed, but there's only one game you weren't in. That was the Oklahoma game. And you can argue that you were in that one, but
you were there.
The truth is,
the buses showed up.
You were, and even with that, we talked about how bad Alabama played, and yet one or two other calls or plays go the other way, and that one looks different. Point is, the record's far from what you wanted it to be, but that doesn't mean that your staff and your personnel need to be changed. Sometimes you just need time, and you need a little bit more from a roster standpoint. And I think they're number 2 recruiting class in the country, or signing class in the country. And then that doesn't even factor in the portal.
Yeah.
So by the time, and they're going to be competitive in the portal. So by the time that all sorts itself out, I think they're going to be in great shape, and I'll be shocked. Let me back off. I'll be shocked if they're not picked where we're accustomed to Bama being picked. I don't think they will, because I think this is, again, another opportunity for the voters to punish if they want to and project. And in some ways, maybe doing Kalen DeBoer a favor by lowering what the expectations are nationally, even though the expectations never change for the fan base. And you get an opportunity now to, as much as an Alabama in this circumstance is ever going to be able to sneak up on the rest of the field. They're still going to be, if they're not top 15, it'll be idiotic.
And after this season of whiplash almost, where they beat Georgia, they skyrocket to first. Mm-hmm. By now, here we are, December, and not even in the 12-team playoff. So I do think that a lot of that will be factored in next year as to where the rest of the nation, again, they become an easy team for everybody else to dislike and gang up on. So
it's been that way for decades.
Has it?
Yes.
Really?
I know you find that hard to believe, having grown up in the state of Georgia.
That's
and
weird.
Only having covered Alabama for the last 25 years yourself.
Okay,
when you were 12.
But you know what else? Alabama is also a basketball school. And
Nate Oats says, can we just be a championship school?
Yeah,
Be a championship school.
It's been a week since a solid victory over North Carolina. Ooh. And that was, I put that in a defining win category when you can go to North Carolina in their building and beat them soundly the way Alabama did last week.
Look, North Carolina's an NCAA tournament team. They're sitting there at 4-4 right now. It's obviously not one of the elite Carolina teams, but they're good. They're going to be very good. They're going to contend, I believe, in the ACC. But it was surreal. Even though Alabama's beaten them twice, most recently, of course, in the Sweet 16 last year, it's surreal to walk into their building and go to the second media timeout and be able to look at Brian Passink and Tom Stipe, my broadcast partners for years, and go, holy cow, Alabama's basketball team is better than North Carolina's. I don't know what this final outcome is going to be.
But for right now,
after two media timeouts, it was clear that Alabama had more talent than North Carolina did. And it comes at you in waves. Because even though you lose Latrell Wrightsell, Houston Millette steps in, and he can't go a ton of minutes, but he hit 2 huge threes and made a couple of great plays defensively. You're about to get Chris Youngblood, who was projected to be a starter before he had injury in the preseason. Now that he's healed and they've gotten him ready and they've been able, because the roster's so good, be able to take their time letting him heal and get ready. It's going to be a scary, scary good team. Here's the problem. You're only one of 5 in the SEC that are in the top 10 nationally right now. And you haven't even gotten into league play. You're prepared for it as best you can possibly be with the schedule they've played, and they got one more coming up where I hope it's going to be a packed house against Creighton on Saturday night at Coleman. And Creighton just beat Kansas by double digits. That all being said, you're still about to have to go through this juggernaut that's going to be the Southeastern Conference. And it's going to be brutal. It'll be tough. But I guarantee you there's nobody excited about Bama coming to their place if you're looking for a guaranteed win.
Well, it's like you said, it comes in waves. It's not just you've got a starting 5 or 2 guys come off the bench. You have another
12,
set
13 guys
that comes off the bench.
You do.
And depth is a luxury, and not just depth, but experienced depth is a luxury that Nate Oats is playing with this year.
And, I was telling somebody about this earlier today. Kelly, it's a phenomenal mix. You've got guys who are really talented. Houston Millette's prime example. He joined us on the on Hey Coach, the radio show for the network the other night, and was talking about why he came to Alabama. And he sounded just like Aaron Estrada when he stood next to me courtside, confetti falling after they'd beaten Clemson to go to the Final Four. And Aaron's talking about, I was player of the year twice in my league at Hofstra, and I played in the Pac-10 or Pac-12 at Oregon and made all league there. He said, I'd done that stuff, but I never played in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
That's why I came to Bama.
Yeah. Houston
had a similar resume during his time at Pepperdine. His coach gets let go. He goes, this is a good time to go, and I want to go to Alabama because I want to play in the tournament.
Yeah.
They could have gone a lot of other places, maybe made some more NIL money, got a bigger percentage of whatever somebody's pool is for NIL, gone somewhere and been the star, the focal point of everything. But Chris Youngblood, I can go through a long list of guys that came in because Grant Nelson's part of this, who had it made where they were if they cared just about themselves.
Right.
But they care about being a part of something bigger than themselves. So you've got that core group. You got a Mark Sears, who's been at Alabama now 3 seasons, has done all the things to get attention, just getting better playing in that system, but love being in Alabama. Alabama kid, wants to come back, play for that purpose. I think LeBaron Philon is in that category, along with Darion Reed and a couple of others that come in and say, you know what? Yeah, I'm a 5-star. I can go anywhere. Blue chip. I want to go where it's not all on my shoulders. But Alabama's got a track record recently of putting guys in the first round of the NBA. I want to go there. I know Brandon Miller did it.
Yeah. Well,
I want to be one and done. I can do it at Alabama, and I can win games in the process and get coached and play with other great players where it's not all on me. It can't go to the box and one on me because who else?
Right.
Or if you're putting one on me, you're not going to play zone on some of these other guys the way we shoot the three. So it's a great situation to be in, whether you're a new star or you're a veteran who just wants to be a part of a winning situation.
Well, you just gave a hell of a sales pitch there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. You mentioned Alabama hosts Creighton, which is they're a perennial, I want to say powerhouse for their own entity.
Well, they were in the old mid-major days. Now they're in a high major.
Was this
in
a
the
home
Big
and home?
East.
Did y'all play at Creighton last year? I feel like y'all went to Nebraska about this time last year.
We've been there, and it may have been. I just don't remember.
They got
I don't think
7:30
so.
this coming Saturday night, as you mentioned, at the Packadome, Coleman Coliseum.
Good.
Next week, traveled to North Dakota, and then in about 2 weeks, you got South Dakota State. Is this part like of a Grant Nelson deferred compensation type thing?
It is a Grant. We're going to give you a chance to go. First of all, I don't think you drop much by going on the road, but I think it is a thank you to him.
Because North
To go
Dakota.
back there. He played at North Dakota State.
Well, okay, hold on.
Okay.
North Dakota, the Fighting Hawks. They are
Did
the
not know
state's
that.
oldest and largest university in North Dakota.
And I believe they are the closest to Winnipeg, Canada, because I looked. It's about a 2.5 hour drive.
You're going to go into Grand Forks, North Dakota,
Yes, you
which
are.
I'm sure is a direct flight from Birmingham. I'm guessing y'all probably fly charter.
Please, dear Lord.
So you got Creighton, North Dakota. Well, right now they're in the middle of the longest stretch that they're going to have off all season. So still continuing, I'm sure, to just soak up, get everything ironed out as much as possible. Then you've got the Golden Flashes of Kent State, which is where my dad went to college. And then South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits.
Forgot about that one coming in
Before
they're
coming
conference
in.
play starts.
Yep. So those are the four you've got coming in before SEC starts on January 4th against Oklahoma.
I bet it's going to be an amazing atmosphere at North Dakota for a Power 5, specifically a brand name like the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Right now,
the number
right
top
now,
10
number
team,
7.
Number 7 in the country. It will be a huge atmosphere there. It'll be great. But another example why I'm so ticked that we got left out of the playoff, because instead of flying to wherever the playoff would be, the playoff game would be for Alabama, I instead will be on the team charter going to North Dakota, where I believe the low yesterday was minus 14. I didn't
that
get
sounds like
Vegas.
fun.
I didn't get Purdue, but I'm going to get Grand Forks. And it ain't going to it might be warm. It might heat up to 0.
I remember one year, we were at the NCAA basketball tournament, maybe in Atlanta. I can't remember. But the media traveling with Creighton was pulling so hard for their team. I'm like, they don't want to go back to Nebraska right now.
No.
And I can't blame them. So that's another one that you're like, thanks football.
Yeah.
Just a little.
I'm not
right there.
mad at them. I can be mad at the committee.
Okay, well, if you're looking for Chris Stewart and you can't find him on the radio or in North Dakota, you can always find him at chrisstewart.online. That's 2 S's.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
I didn't mean to. I didn't.
Don't do that.
It's nothing personal. I didn't mean to.
Do that. Don't do
Okay.
that.
With 2 S's. I could use another finger, but I'm deciding not to.
You wouldn't be the first.
We need to give a giant thanks to Santa's favorite elf over there behind the board, Scott Forrester.
He's taller than I am.
Always making us look as good as we possibly can.
Yeah.
And you can find more information, anything you need to know, more stuff that you could shake a stick at on Cover Crimson, as well as the hardest working crew at the next round every single day. But I think that's about it for now.
Land the plane, Captain.
I'm going to try to. I am Kelly Hunter, Chris Stewart, voice of Crimson Tide Athletics. Give them a good one.
Roll Tide.
Have a great week. We'll see you next time.